Let me dispel the myth that short-term rentals have to take a lot of time to manage and are harder to manage than other forms of real estate investing. A well-run short-term rental portfolio should take no more time out of you than any other real estate strategy. Because with boutique hotels, you have one thing you need to scale an operation and elevate yourself out of the hands-on management. And that thing is the key to your operations, the topic of this video. It's why I buy boutique hotels, and it's the most important thing for you to scale your portfolio without your portfolio taking over your life. And that thing is revenue. And specifically with this strategy, a lot more of it. So the increased revenue allows you to scale your operation and manage your portfolio really efficiently. And setting up your operations the right way is more time and effort up front, but a lot less on the back end, if you do what we discussed in this video. And that, my friends, is the dichotomy of short-term rental management: working more for a time to work less. And I'm gonna share with you guys how I've been able to manage a large portfolio of 85 short-term rental units across 3 markets all across the country, while still having a full-time job being active duty in the military. Now, if I can do that, you can definitely manage your first boutique hotel from anywhere, maybe while you still have a job that you're trying to get out of. And what we'll talk about in this video will enable you to get out of that job faster without creating a new job for yourself, which is really key. Now, the truth is, if you want completely passive short-term rentals, go hire a property management company and pay them 20 to 25% of your top line revenue. But even that might not be as passive as you hope, and your listing performance might slip because no manager is going to care about your listings as much as you do when they have a bunch of other clients to focus on too. I've experienced that same thing with 2 different property managers because I didn't want to think about the management and just wanted to focus on growing and getting more properties, and it bit me both times. And I've heard that same story countless times from others. You end up dishing out 20% or more of your earnings in return, get lower performing listings. So you really get hit twice. So in my opinion, the way you have better control and better financial performance is by paying yourself that 20 to 25% management fee and building your own in-house management company. And the key to that is automating your business with technology and systems and people. And everything you do should be with the ultimate goal to automate your business with these things in order to remove yourself from the business. Because by doing so, you're going to clear the way for other people to step in and drive the growth of the business more than you could alone. So you're going to need people. Like if you find a billionaire who got that way by building a business that had no employees, you'll probably find them sitting in a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow on Mars. Such a big piece of automating your boutique hotel is your tech stack. And a question I get all the time is what PMS I use. And let's start there because this is the most important part of your tech stack that enables the automation of your hotel. So I use Guesty for Pros, and that is the hub of my tech stack. And that PMS allows me to distribute my listings to all the OTAs like Airbnb, and automate my messaging, my calendar management, and a lot more. And from there, I have key functions that are integrated with the PMS with Guesty, like dynamic pricing and lock management and guidebooks and everything else I need. These are the key pieces that allow you to automate your business, and it's very affordable to do. And from there, you can put systems in place that make the management really easy. And what's really cool about this asset class, especially with like 40 units or below on one property, is that you can run really lean. And I say under about 40 units because that is the range where you don't need to set up staff of a typical hotel. So this is to your advantage because of the technology and the systems that you can use to replace your labor, and that's going to lower your labor costs, making it more affordable for you to run the business. And one of the surefire ways you can do this is by eliminating the front desk. So I've converted all the offices at the hotels I've run either into rentable units or workspace and storage for my staff. And you can even turn it into a shared common space or a lounge for the guests. Whatever you convert the space into depends on your need and the highest and best use for that space, because the point is you don't need it due to the things that you can put in place to run your hotel lean, like without a check-in desk and with your front desk staff, without those 2 things. The first and most straightforward is your listing descriptions and your automations. And your goal here is to describe how the hotel is set up and properly set expectations with your guests. If they know what they're getting into before they arrive and their expectations of that is met, no matter what that is, even with basic hotels, then they are more likely to enjoy their experience and leave you a good review. And over communicate so guests know what they're getting. The truth is, with today's short-term rental market and the expectations of guests, they want ease and efficiency and self-check-in and to do their own thing without interacting with the staff. So you describe that in your listings and in your messaging too, and picture it in your listing photos. And that is the first part to eliminating the need of a front desk and the other typical hotel operations. And the next piece is smart locks to enable guests to check in on their own without coming to the front desk. Instead of coming to the front desk to get their key card and then go to their room, they book their room online. and then they get their door code that is generated for their stay, and then they can go straight to the room and check in. So I use Schlage & Code smart locks and Remote Lock, which is our software that connects to our PMS to create a new code for every single reservation. So the locks are Wi-Fi enabled, and then they connect to the PMS. So each time someone books, a new code is generated for them. So that takes the lock management and the access of all your listings off of your to-do list and makes the check-in process automated for you, for your team, and for your guests. So it's really good all around. And another piece of running your hotel without staff is having a way for guests to get the things they need, like extra toilet paper or more towels, without having anyone there on site to get it for them because you don't have that front desk staff. So this is where your guest closet comes into play. And it's super easy to set up. You can convert an old storage closet or a housekeeping room at the hotel into a guest closet with its own electronic key code lock, and then stock it with those extra amenities that a guest might ask for. And then when they do, you or your team gives them that code, and then they can go grab it for themselves. So this saves you from having to go out and get them these things, or dispatching someone on your team and having to pay them to do it. And again, guests today want convenience and they want speed. And with this, they can get it on their own right when they need it, which is really good. So that guest closet covers you for when you don't have people there and eliminates the need for someone to be there at all the time. All right, so these are the main things of the hotel that you need to stay hands-off and need less staff for the hotel. But what about everything else? Like all the questions and the inquiries and concerns that get brought up. Because with all the extra rooms on site, servicing and responding to all your guests is a big part of your operations. And real quick, because I want you guys to be armed with the things you need to go out and find your own deal and be able to operate it, or maybe what brought you here is that you have a deal under contract or you already bought one and you're trying to figure out how to run it or run it better. So in the description below is a link to a video series that I put together to help you build your operations team and the tools you need to put those in place to run your boutique hotel really efficiently. Like my goal is to make my free stuff better than stuff you'd have to pay for elsewhere. I want to make the stuff accessible to you guys and make the hotel space an accessible asset class. So go get that link below if you want it, and reach out if you need any questions. So now about everything else. This is where I want to talk about the systems you need to put in place for your operations. And probably none are as important as your system for messaging and responding to guests. Because nothing extrapolates the demand on you like the demand of your guests. Like more guests is going to be more turnovers and more supplies and linens and even more maintenance issues. But all those things have service providers that are usually pretty happy to take on the extra work. And you can get bulk discounts on those things and keep them off of your plate. So putting systems in place to manage that increased guest demand is what turns your boutique hotel business into a scalable business. And the first, most high-touch, most important aspect is your guest messaging. This is also the first thing you should get off of your plate because it takes the most time. And I've got a little story to bring this to life. At the height of my portfolio, once my 5 hotels were renovated and open, we had 85 units and we would have had hundreds of message threads per week and thousands of ingoing and outgoing messages every single week. And I knew at the start, before all the hotels were live, that it was going to get to that point, and I didn't want to be the one, couldn't be the one messaging all those guests. So I started to look for a way to outsource the guest messaging from the very beginning. That was one of my non-negotiables as we were planning out and renovating the first hotels, because I did all the guest messaging up to that point with my 8 units, and that was pretty manageable, even with working full-time, but I knew that going from 8 to 50, right, in a few months was going to be unsustainable for me to do all the guest messaging. And it was, really for any one person to do. So that led into the development of my e-concierge team, or the virtual assistants, who are our virtual guest service reps, and they do all the guest messaging, the resolution requests, reservation changes, and so on. So your e-concierge team, or your virtual guest service team, whatever you want to call them, is probably the most important part of your operations from a time saving and a quality of service perspective. And we decided to go with, and we still use, VAs from the Philippines, because we hire them anywhere from between $4 to $6 per hour, which is really good pay in the Philippines. It sounds low here, I know. And we hire pretty exclusively people that have worked in customer service for Airbnb or one of the other travel companies already, that have been trained by those companies and already understand how to deal with guests. So sometimes the language barrier and how they communicate is not 100% how we'd want it to, but that's a video for another day. Overall, they do pretty well, or at least can, with good training and quality control checks in place from you. And that's where your systems for finding and training and just continuous improvement of that team becomes really, really important. It's a function of your business, like sales or like marketing, and that it's always going to be continually improving. The point is, it gets the most time-consuming part of your business out of your hands, and it's good enough, and it only gets better with time and with focus. And another system in your business that is going to be crucial is your system for getting good reviews. So your reviews are always one of the most important parts of your STR business, but they become even more important with your boutique hotel because you have more units that are all getting reviews for the same property. So if you're used to managing reviews for a single STR house and you go to a 10-unit boutique hotel, your reviews essentially become 10 times more important. Like, think about that. Reviews are the lifeblood of your business. So a good system in place that earns you more good reviews leads to better listing ranking, more views in search, and more bookings. What I have in place for this, with the understanding that guests are 70% more likely to leave you a review if you simply ask, is we ask. And not just once, but we follow up and remind our guests as well. And then the great part is, most of this is automated. We have several review requests that go out to the guests through our automated message flows. And for us, it's not just asking, but how we ask and when we ask. How we do it is a little tact mixed with hospitality. So we want to thank the guests, right? And wish them a good stay and safe travels. And say if they had a good stay, we'd really appreciate a 5-star review. And we call out 5 stars to set that expectation. And we say if anything was wrong, to please let us know here so that we can handle it right away. That way, if they experience anything undesirable, they can let us know rather than it show up in a review. And then we send those right when they check out. Like, we want to be top of mind at the end of their stay when the experience is fresh in their mind. We also send reminders the next day and then before the end of the review window in that 2-week period. And for those that do leave a 5-star review, we also manually message them, or our e-concierge team does that, to send our Google review link and ask them to leave us a good review there as well, to share their good experience so that we get double reviews from those who are already our brand ambassadors because they already left us a great review on that platform that they booked on. And that helps with the brand of the hotel and the SEO to drive more direct bookings. If you do those things, you'll see a big increase in your business just by focusing really intently on your reviews, knowing the impact they have on your business. So there are more systems that are important for your business, and that is what the link below dives into. Like, I wanted to give you the biggest, most impactful ones here because if all you did were these things, you'd be able to run your hotel really, really efficiently and really profitably. And if all this sounds overwhelming and you feel like you could benefit from private consulting or training, reach out to me about my Boutique Hotel Mastermind program. Let's discuss if it's right for you. Now, building your team as you scale, just like the e-concierge that we talked about, is by far and away the most important part of your operation, because you can't do everything yourself. Even if you hire someone that does a task 70% as good as you, as you scale up, maybe that turns into 2 people at 70% of your production, but together they're at 140% of your production. And by outsourcing, you can free yourself up to be the CEO and not your own employee. Now, the structure of your team depends on the size of the hotel that you purchase and operate. And the cool thing is you can create an efficient management structure from the start, no matter what the size of the hotel. What you're really aiming for is a revenue target, not a unit count. Like, the unit count is just a vanity metric. So even with my 8-unit hotel that only grosses about $220,000 per year, I'm able to outsource the admin. And then with my other short-term rentals in that same market close by, I'm able to afford to pay a location manager to oversee that hotel as well. So my total revenue from all my STR units in Florida is between about $450,000 and $500,000 per year. So that allows me to build in the OpCo structure to be in the management and leadership position rather than messaging guests and, responding to reviews and all that other stuff. So that's roughly the revenue where you're able to build an efficient and a lean team. And you can get to that point with one hotel pretty easily. As you build your portfolio, you can think about scaling in tiers. So each level, adding more systems and more people and elevating yourself up so you can focus on the business and not working in the business. So when you start out on the smaller scale at tier 1, that's like around 10 units or so or under that, likely all you can afford is your cleaners and contracted handyman and your virtual admin and guest service positions. And that's okay because that's all you need at this stage. And if this is where you start, you'll have to be more involved and still do all your own pricing, resolving guest issues and scheduling. But again, that's okay because you'll learn by doing and you'll get better when you scale to a bigger property. And at this stage, you are the business. Like, you wear all the hats and you do all the functions aside from the guest messaging and the admin, because that's your foundational piece that we talked about earlier and that you could hire virtually for pretty cheap. And that alone takes a lot of the work off your plate, which is why I like going boutique hotels more than different houses. And if you can find a really good cleaner who's responsible and can supplement some on-site presence for guest issues, then you're really rocking and rolling because they can help out get some things off your plate too. So this is the stage that I'd be at if I just had the one 8-unit boutique hotel that I mentioned, able to outsource just enough, but still really involved. Where it starts to get fun because it becomes much more efficient is at that tier 2 scale where you're in the 10 to 40 unit range, because that's when you can start hiring out key functions and free yourself up even more. So in that size range, you can hire a property manager for that hotel or a group of hotels if it takes like 2 or more properties to make up that unit range. And what I mean is an in-house property manager, not an outsourced third-party manager. And your property manager becomes the filter of those guest issues that we talked about for that group of units and provides another layer between you and your guests. So that elevates you out of the mundaneness so that you can focus on the higher leverage activities and deliver more value to your business. And the key is finding someone responsible for that position, training them well, and giving them the power to make decisions. That is why they're there in the first place, right? If you just hire that person, put them in place, and you come and do everything for them, you don't get to elevate and you're doing their job for them. So just be careful of that, because I've been there. I see it happen a lot. Also at this scale, you can bring on a virtual or in-person operations manager to handle all the higher level admin and the back-end operations, like your listing management, payroll, all the things that need to get done, just not by you. And this stage, tier 2, is the stage I got to when our first 2 hotels were completed. I was about 32 units and just over $1 million of revenue. So I had the property management, the cleaning, and the back-end admin accounted for, and I was the manager of the areas in the business. It was a good place to be in, especially after grinding through tier 1, but there was still work to do. And the next tier is where you gain a lot more freedom. Tier 3 is where you begin to hire people for functional responsibility, like a revenue manager, a sales and marketing manager, a head of guest experience, HR, and even a director of operations to replace you as the manager for all those functions and heads of the business. So this occurs in maybe the 50 to 80 unit range and above. And this is where you pivot to a leadership position and you can focus on the vision, the growth, and the things that fire you up as an entrepreneur, right? Like, having scaled through all these stages, I can say that this one is definitely the most fun because you're no longer the one putting out fires. Like, you hire competent and capable people to do that, and then you lead them in the pursuit to making the business great. And this is why I like boutique hotels so much, because it only takes a few purchases to get to this level of not just financial freedom, but lifestyle freedom as well. It takes a lot longer to do the same thing with residential short-term rentals. This was the stage that I got to once all 5 of my hotels were operational and we had the revenue to outsource the functional responsibility of the business, and we were tracking to $3 million in revenue. And at that level, I was leading from the top and providing insight and leadership to the managers and working to push the business forward, but only spending a few hours a week in the active management of the hotels. It took me 5 hotels to get there because they were all 15 to 20 units, but it could likely take you less if you have the right help. And that's what I'm here for. And scaling through these tiers, you go from being a worker in your business to being a manager of your business, and then on to being the leader of the vision. At each step, you learn, you hire, and train, and document the process of what you're doing, and then give those people that you hire to be in charge of doing it. And then in doing that, you're creating a business at the same time as your boutique hotel empire. And that creates value for you, your employees, your investors, and even your guests, because they're getting better and more focused attention. And all of this is possible because you're investing in a scalable asset class with enough revenue to invest in with the technology, the systems, and the people to create a really cool, efficient business that removes you from having to do everything yourself.